Hey everybody, it's Barbara from Where's BabZ, and I'm back with Mark.
Hey.
If you missed our first little conversation, we talked about vacations to go and picking cruises and solo travel. So today we are on board, as we have been, and will be for another 17 days, something like that. Sapphire Princess going around South America and cruising around the Antarctic. We thought we'd talk about excursions because there are lots of options. And one of them is on the ship, where the ship offers you lots of excursions. The other one, walking off the ship and finding a tour guide, and the other one is looking on Viator, Expedia. So we're going to cover all those. You are a fan of walking off the ship and finding a tour.
BabZ, I'm a fan of all three of the above.
Good. Okay.
But doing it on the ship, you have the security of knowing that you're not going to get left behind. So, for instance, when we first started, if there's like 4 or 5 sea days and you're going like transatlantic, you probably want to be very careful and maybe do something with the ship.
What if you buy an excursion on a ship, it is called guaranteed return.
Yep.
And we actually had that issue.
Yes, we had it in Costa Rica.
Yep. Where a ship excursion was late and we were delayed an hour.
Yep.
Which didn't interfere with our sailing at all. But because they were with an excursion they bought through the ship could not leave port.
Right.
Until those passengers were back on board.
Yep. So that's an important guarantee for a lot of people to have, particularly in a third world country.
Well, or you just like the security of it.
Absolutely.
And you pay for it.
Yep.
They tend to be a little bit higher.
They do, and a lot of people don't realize that the cruise ships, they don't really make much money or any money on the cruise fare. They make it on the extras that they sell you.
It's like a car.
Yeah.
It's like buying a car. And I would say, in my humble opinion, that those tours are the same thing that you can get off the boat or in Viator,
yep.
Right? And often the ship has contracted with those same contractors.
Yes.
Or tour guides.
Yep.
Because they're all giving basically the same tour in the same city.
So you basically have 3 levels of savings and risk. The easiest and safest is to go with the ship, where you're escorted off the ship, get on your tour bus, you don't have to worry about speaking the language, getting lost, don't have to worry about getting back, and you pay a premium for that.
Right.
And if you go through Viator, then it's kind of a little in between. You have to find your way off. You often have to find your way to the bus and who's speaking. And if they don't come back in time, which they usually do, almost always, but you could get left behind.
So on my Viator, my security level there is that I have a backup from Viator.
Yeah.
It's not, and if we're late, so we're screwed. But I think that the tours in these countries know that if they screw cruise passengers, we will let the world know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very set to the cruise schedule. Mm-hmm. These communities.
Sure.
5 cruises come in one day, and they are all there waiting to give you a tour off of Viator, or if you just step off the ship. Yeah.
And you had mentioned about doing some research.
Yes.
And different excursions require a little bit more planning or maybe a little bit more logistics.
Yes.
For instance, when I was in Europe, oftentimes we would stop at a port, and the port would be right in the heart of the city.
Right.
And a lot of people will do the hop-on, hop-off bus. It's kind of quick and easy, doesn't require much work, gives you an oversight. And from the boat, it may cost $80. And a lot of times you just literally walk off the boat. You can walk up to the same bus, and it might be $25.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. And I always think of these cruises as taster cruises. Tasters, right?
Yes.
So you get a taste and say, oh, I want to go back to Costa Rica, or I want to go back to Ecuador, right? Yep. So you may only have 8 or 12 hours in port. Sometimes they're longer, but that hop on, hop off is a great start. And then you can either decide I'm going to go back, because the hop on could be an hour. Yep. Right? Or it could be 3 hours. It depends on how big the city is that you're going through. So I think that that's always a good option, and definitely don't buy those from the ship.
Yep, exactly. So, and then the last one that we didn't hit on is winging it a bit more, like I enjoy doing.
Yes, Mark does enjoy doing that.
And that's the riskiest, and it's the one that requires a lot more flexibility because you don't know exactly what you're going to get. But I've got quite a bit of experience with traveling the world. I speak 4 languages.
There you go.
That helps.
Yep.
So, for instance, being here when I went to Costa Rica and in Ecuador, I got off the ship. In Costa Rica, I knew that there would be people selling tours off the ship because I checked what's in port.
And there are, we'll talk about that in a second. And that's true of every city that has a cruise, that has a cruise ship.
Yep.
That someone local has created a tour that people can take. So you're right, it's not all of them, but many of these cities, like Punta Arenas and Manta, survive on these cruise ships coming in. So they're sort of ready for it. But the research is helpful. Go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, for instance, What's in Port or Cruise Crocodile, you can see the different ports, and it'll tell you, hey, there'll be people selling tours after you pass the gate, before you pass the gate, or there won't be anybody selling tours, and they'll tell you some of the major places that you might be interested in seeing.
So these are websites that you can go to, What's in Port and Crocodile.
Cruise Crocodile.
Cruise Crocodile, and so you can always check. But there's also, I think, the research just of where you're going.
Oh, sure.
Right? What are they known for? What do you want to see? How much time do you have? Is it archaeological? Is it history? Is it food? You know, I'm a big fan of food walking tours. I love that, and if they have that, I'm like, I'm in, right? So, and those are things that you may not necessarily find from the cruise ship.
Yep.
You know, Viator, yes, but not from the cruise ship.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last one of doing it on your own, you have a certain amount of authenticity, particularly if you speak the language. So I had researched, you know, before getting off the ship in Costa Rica and Ecuador, both said that these were safe ports, that it was easy to get a taxi. Particularly in Ecuador, they said it would be $2 or so.
Right.
And because I speak Spanish in particular, I got off the ship, spoke to the locals, and actually, in the last instance, I spoke to a whole group of locals, and they helped me out.
At the local square?
Yes.
You walked
I
over
went
to
the
the central
Yep,
square,
yep.
yeah.
And one of them said, hey, I can give you a ride to Monte Cristi, and he was really well known in the area, and my family and I, we said okay, and we went with him and met him, saw his house, and he gave us some local
lovely.
fruit, and we ate ceviche with him, and we got a picture taken at the end.
And the Panama hats, or the Ecuador hats.
Yes, we did get
Yes.
the Panama hats. Yep.
So just a quick one. They're actually Ecuadorian hats. Someone took them from Ecuador to Panama. President Roosevelt put it on, and they became Panama hats,
Oh, be.
which is
I did not know that.
which is really disappointing for Ecuador. But that's how we got the Panama hat, and we all went. And so then when you get back on the ship, everybody's done the same thing.
Yep.
They went to see the church. They went to see El Faro. They did the Panama hats. You know, the whole thing. But there's a lot of opportunity that you have, and the only thing you got to be careful of. So we were looking at tours for the Ballastas Reserve, and it's a boat tour, and some of them just go out. They say it's a mini Galapagos. Some of them just go out for a couple hours, and some of them go out for 10. We don't have 10 hours in port. So when you're looking at these, you have buyer beware, and you have to be aware of the research of what the ship is doing, as well as the research of the place you're going to. Yeah, and get off the ship.
Oh, for
Definitely get off the ship, and that helps the economy as well. But if you go a little farther in, or you have a local, you're really going to see some beautiful
sure.
stuff.
Kind of one other hint, and is Google Maps. When you're on Google Maps and you say what's interesting nearby or what to see nearby, you can rank it by like how people review it, and you'll see the most fascinating things often nearby.
And often people have set up guides.
Yep.
On Apple Maps, there are guides, so you can do that, and it says, do you want directions or do you want the guide? And locals, everyone who's done it, it's like Foursquare, you know, has decided to put in a guide for Ecuador or Manta or whatever. Mark, thanks again. We'll be doing some more. Again, we've got like another 17 days ahead, and make sure you check out the YouTube channel for a bunch of other tips on solo travel. Thanks for watching.